In Blender, a modifier is a non-destructive way to alter the shape or appearance of an object without actually changing its underlying geometry. Modifiers can be used to achieve a wide range of effects, from simple transformations to complex deformations. Now we're going to be creating a project, and this project will be utilizing the modifiers greatly to be able to create a very simple scene. But then the modifiers will help us to be able to create these things very, very fast and easy. Right now, let's go into the project. So here we'll have the cube. I'm going to simply just bring up the cube because it's going to serve a purpose for us. The first thing I'm going to do is to add a plane. And once I add the plane, I'm going to rotate the plane on the y-axis, the green axis, by pressing RY90. So now I have my plane standing, and I'm going to press S to scale it up. Once I scale it up, I bring it up here. Now I'm creating a simple wall that will be perforated by this cube that is down here. I'll press Shift A again and add a new plane. And this plane this time around, I'm going to scale it S. I'm going to split it for 200 times. S 200. So I have something like this. So over here, I'm going to just bring this up here because I'm going to use this particular cube to cut through this wall here, because I'm trying to create a wall that will have a car go through it and park in a particular kind of cage. Now I'm going to scale this up a bit this way to create this hole. I will select this here and I'm going to go to the modifier. So here we'll have the modifiers, and you can add series of modifiers. Depending on the version you're using, you will see most of all these modifiers that I have here. So modifiers are divided into 4 categories. We'll have the modify, the generate, the deform, and the physics. Now the modify is for modifying things such as doing things like mesh cage, but I won't go into the details of this. I'll be using mainly the generate modifiers, and I'll be using a few of the deform modifiers. For the physics modifiers, this is for more on the simulation level. We're not going to be touching that for now, but just have an idea that they're all still under modifiers even though they are physics. Now I'm going to add the first one. I'm going to be using the solidify modifier. The solidify modifier is used to be able to add thickness to a plane surface. So if you have a plane surface that is just flat, plain flat, and you want it to have a thickness, because we have a wall here and we want it to have a thickness, so we're going to be using this thickness here. So we can be able to increase that. Let me turn this on here. You can always turn them off from here, from the real-time viewport, or you can turn it off from the render if you don't want to render it. Now I'm going to increase this here, and you have a thick wall that is here. Now, one more thing you need to know about this is that when you click here, you can apply your modifiers. Now, your modifiers are not actually applied already because they are just modifying it. It's a non-destructive way of modifying things without actually destroying it. So this thing, if I use edit mode to extrude it, that means that the shape has been changed. But right now, I can always go up here and just turn it off because the shape has not been modified. The geometry has not been modified yet. It's just there, and these modifiers are just used to simulate that illusion. So over here I have my thickness, and I can go for any value that I want. So now I want to be able to get something else. Now if you want to turn this into a real deformation, you can always click here and apply it. Once you apply it, you actually see that now it has been transformed. It's no more a plane, but I'm going to bring it back by pressing Ctrl Z. The second thing I want to add is the Boolean modifier. The Boolean modifier is used for cutting holes through a particular mesh. So these are meshes that we're using, so we can cut holes through it. So I have this, and I want this to be like a gate that I'll have a car that will pass through it. So I just scale this up a bit, and I can be able to get this. So whenever you want to do this, make sure you select what you want to cut. Okay, that's where the Boolean modifier should be. So once I add the Boolean modifier to it, I can click on this eyedropper tool here, and then I can be able to come and click on this box here, this cube. Once I click on the cube, Now you see that there is a cord there, but you can't really see it. So what you have to do is select this, and you can be able to press M and move it to a new collection. If you press M, M is for Mary. So if I click on new collection, I will call this hidden. And now I press N to bring out this particular part of my properties. I will go down to view, and I can go down to my collections and I can hide it. So right now you actually see that this place has an opening here. So if you want to be able to do other things, let's say for example have a kind of building around it, you can also do that. But I'm going to leave this way for the meantime. The second thing we want to build is to build a car. But before we do that, let's save our work. Right now, I want to be able to build a car. I'll press Shift A, make sure my 3D cursor is here. I'll press Shift A, and now I can be able to get a new cube this time around. So this cube I'm going to be using to model a simple car. To use that, I'm going to be using a modifier called the mirror modifiers. This mirror modifier enables me to model one thing on one side and have it appear on the other side. To use it, I'm going to enter into edit mode, and I'm going to press Ctrl R to put a loop cut. So I'm going to just cut this into 2 halves. Click the first time to accept the number of loop cuts, and then the second time to accept the position. Now I can just click here. I want to select all of this. The fastest way to select it is simply go over here and click on this option for X-ray, and you can be able to see through your mesh. Now I can press B on my keyboard and click and drag to box select. Now I've selected the entire one side of it, just one side of it. I'll press X and delete the faces. So once I deleted the faces, I will remove this, and you see it's just half now. I'll go down to my modifier and I'll go and add a mirror modifier. So right now, if you add your mirror modifier, you have to be careful where you have added it. So if you look at here, we'll have the y-axis, and that is the opposite axis that we'll have here that is lacking its own side. So I will go here and click on the y, and it will complete it for me. So I can turn off this, because this means that it's also mirroring it on the x-axis, which is this side, which is not good for me. So I will remove that because I don't need that. The next thing I want to do is to enter into edit mode. If you press A to select everything, get your move tool, you can actually separate this and make them different. So you can be modeling one thing on the other side. Whatever you do here will appear on the other side. But we want this to be together. To make it together, we can be able to bring it together. And once we bring it together, we'll turn on the clipping, meaning that they cannot separate again. So now we want to be able to build a very simple car that we're going to be using. So right now, if I come in here, I can be able to select these parts and just drag this down. So the first part I want to do is put another loop cut here for the top of my car. Click and then click again. Select this top here, and I'm going to drag it up this way. So I'm going to select here, and I need hold shift and select all of them at the bottom and pull this up a bit here. I will select this one from the front here, and I can get the front of the car. And then for this one, I will select this for the back of the car. If you think this thing is too large, you can always scale it down to a good scale. I'll use my edge selection mode to select here and just pull it down a bit. And this one, I'm going to pull it up a bit. For the screen, I'm just going to do a very simple thing here. And if you want to do something more interesting, you can do E, and then you can scale in like this. And when you scale in, let me do that again. E, click to accept, S to scale in, and then E again, and you can just push this in, and you have it going in a bit this way. You can do the same thing here. E, click to accept, S to scale in, and then E, and you move in again. If you make a mistake that you want to be able to move this right now, you see that it's going to be difficult for you to move in this axis. So what you have to do is go up here, change it to your normal, then you can drag it that way if that's what you want to do. If you want to adjust it again, so we can go back to our global. Next one we're going to use is our solid subdivision modifier. So let's use subdivision modifier. The subdivision modifier is used to add more geometry and more subdivisions to our mesh. So right now they're just sharp, and we can be able to click here and add a subdivision to this. So if you add a subdivision, if you look at what is happening right now, it's becoming more rounded because this is now giving it more subdivision. If I right click, I can add smooth here. If I enter into edit mode, what I could do to be able to resolve this, there are two ways. You can be able to use your min crease to be able to adjust it, but the better way is go into edit mode, press Ctrl R and put a loop cut to tighten the edges by just dragging it. You see, I have a new outline. I have a new edge that I've just created, a new loop cut. I'll just drag it to the edge this way. So right now, the edges are somehow curved, but then they are still a bit more straight. I can now enter back again, Ctrl R. I can adjust, tighten the edges for this one, Ctrl R, put this for this. Make sure you don't go too close so that the roundedness will still be there. Ctrl R again, and then you just drag this to this point. So if you look at here, the extrusion is no more visible. So we go back to our edit mode, Ctrl R, and bring this in here. Ctrl R, bring this in here, and Ctrl R, bring this in here. So we'll have something that looks more like this. Let's also add at the top of this place. To tighten these edges that are coming out here, we'll enter into edit mode again, Ctrl R, and we're going to put another loop cut and just drag this up to this place. Now we'll have something more interesting. Ctrl R, and then also put for the down part of this car. Now I can be able to go get my tires. So if I press Shift A, I can be able to get my cylinder, and that will be what I'm going to be using for my car tires. Bring this up, rotate on the z-axis, RX 90 degrees. So rotate on the x-axis, and I can scale it down. Now if you look at the edges here, because we're not using subdivision modifier on this one, we're going to be using the bevel. So bevel is another modifier that is used to make sure that you have curved edges. So you don't have edges that are just sharp. So they have to be somehow curved. So if you look at here, they are just sharp, and we can be able to click here and just add a bevel to this. So if you look at what is happening here, it has a bevel on it. So we can reduce this amount, and let's increase it just a bit, and then increase the segment, and you have something like this. You can right click and auto smooth, and then Ctrl A and apply your scale. And this will enable you to create a very simple tire. So I'm going to scale this down and bring this up here. So now that I've brought this into this place, I can just shift this here. And I have something like this. We're not going for a more realistic thing here now, because we're not even going to be touching much of the texturing for this video. We're just focusing more on our modifiers. So right now, I want to use the modifier called array. So array is used for duplicating things without actually duplicating them. So if I put an array here now, we can be able to have these objects duplicated, but then if you actually turn it up, you see that it's just one of it that is still there. So now I can just have this duplicated, and I can increase the location or the particular position where it is by changing the x-axis, the x value or the y value if I want it to go down or up. So you have to mind wherever you are putting it. And I'll also do another array because I want it to go the other way. So to go the other way, if you come in here, you see that it's on x. So I'm going to say I don't want it to go on x. So I'll put 0 there. I want it to go rather even on y. Y is not good because this was rotated. So we're going to be using z. So if you go this positive, you see it's going this way. So we'll say, okay, go negative. I'm clicking and dragging it to this side. So we'll have something like this. Let me press 7 to look at it from the top from my numbers keypad and just drag this to the center here. So right now I have this. I can press hold shift and click on this and then control P and keep transform to parent it. So right now when you select this, if you move, the tires move with it. So right now I have this simple car that is going to be going through here. Now we're done building the car. The next thing we want to be able to build is the road that leads to this place. So I'm going to get my 3D cursor and click here. I'm going to add a simple plane. So this plane is going to be moving forward. So I'm going to use my scale and just scale it up a bit this way. Let me bring it up. Enter into edit mode. Now you need to add some subdivisions on it for you to be able to use it to create the road that we need. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to do first, to make it proportional, I'm going to put Ctrl R, put a subdivision in the center here, and then press A to select everything, right click and subdivide. So they are much more balanced now. Right click, subdivide, and right click and subdivide again. So I have something that looks like this. The more subdivisions you have, the better, smoother the road that we're going to be building it will be. So now I want a road that is just curving a bit and going to a cage where the car will be parked. We're going to be making a kind of cage for it, not a garage. So right now I'm going to press Shift A and add what we call curves. So curves are used for making some kind of bending to our meshes. So I'm going to click on this Bezier curve and I have a curve here. So you can scale it up and see what it's looking like. Now we can enter into edit mode here. Now in edit mode, I can select the top here and you can use the move tool to move it however you like, but we want to extend it. So I'm going to press E to extrude it and I will lock it on the Y or X axis. And now I can be able to have something like this. If you want it to curve, you can press R, Z, and you can curve it this way. If you want to, I can do under E and lock it on the X axis. And I have something like this. So if you have this kind of road, it's a bit winding. I can rotate this on the Z axis too, R, Z. I have something like this. You can scale it up this way. So make sure that whenever you're moving this, that you lock it on an axis. If not, it can go up if that's what you are looking for. So if you want a road that is actually going up, you could actually do that too. So, but if you want a flat road, make sure that it's just flat on the floor. So, but to make this more interesting, I'm going to just drag this up here and I'm going to pull this up to this place. Do another E and I'm going to lock it on the x-axis and bring it up here. So we'll have a road that is actually going up. So now I'm going to come in here and select this one here. And I'm going to first add my array modifier. So the array modifier, it's going towards this direction. So the first thing I will do, I will just allow it first. So even if I rotate, it's not going to do much. So I'm just going to allow it here. And now make sure that I bring this down a bit to the floor. Select this one. And now I've added the array modifier. I will add the second one. And the next thing I'm going to add is what we call the deform modifier. So default modifier, the default modifiers will have what we're going to be using is what we call the curve modifier. So the curve is used to make a mesh to adjust to the shape of a curve. So if I click on this now, I can just come in here and click on the curve object here, click, and I'm just going to drop this here. Now, once I do this, if you look at, because of the way I model this, it's actually coming from this side. So I can select this. It's actually over there, but it's appearing there because of the way this thing is. So, but notwithstanding, we can just increase this and you see that it's now going through that line. So this could be a bit tricky. You could have issues with this depending on how you model your own. So, but the most important thing is that make sure that whenever you add it, if you have any issue, just come down here and you can change your axis. So we'll have the x-axis, we'll have either the y. Sometimes, depending on how you have modeled it, you can, some of them will be x that will actually work for it. So if you look at now, if I have x, I can drag this. So you see that if this point, the origin point is over here, then this one is over here. So, but for my work, I think my x will work very well for this particular project. So whenever you have issues, just come here in the deform axis and then you change it to be able to adjust it to whatever you want it. Make sure that the array modifier comes before the deform modifier. That's the only way it's going to work. So right now, if you look at this, you see that this is more like a road. Now we could actually make it more smoother if it's not smooth enough. Like if you come to the edges here, it's not so smooth over here. So to deal with that, we enter into edit mode and we can right click and subdivide again. Now make sure your system can carry this. If not, you can leave it to be a bit not so smooth. So once I do this, you have something like this. I can right click and auto smooth to be able to get this. So if I have all these kind of problems, I can always select this, select here, and I can always RZ and just scale it in a bit. Let's scale it out and see if it's going to resolve it for us. So we'll have something like this. So the more curves you have, sometimes they will not work well or they will not be very sharp. So I have something like this now. To make the road much more interesting, I will add a solidify modifier to my plane. So if you go close to the solidify modifier, if that's the kind of road you're looking for, you actually see that it becomes a bit more thick. Let's go down. So we'll have a thick road now. So here we can be able to select this, select the two of them and just move them this way. So if you select this, hold shift, select that and just move them to where you want them to be. So right now we can be able to get this down. So we have used a couple of modifiers right now for our work. So we'll have this coming up here and we can be able to go over here. So we want to be able to go create some kind of cage where our car is going to be parking. So the first thing I'm going to do is to click here and create this cube. I'm going to first create the background here. So this will be like a place where you are coming up to. Let's scale it up a bit. To make this more interesting, make sure you actually add your bevel on it. So we'll have something like this. So let's scale it out. And this way too. So I'll do Shift D to duplicate this and bring this up. I want to use this for my cage. So I want this to be like a kind of cage because I want to utilize one of the modifiers for building cages. So I'll drop this here. Let's select this, right click and auto smooth. Select this, right click and auto smooth too. Let's change this a bit. I'll enter into edit mode and I want to have a door for my garage. So I'm just going to put two loop cuts, Ctrl R, move my mouse forward and put 2 loop cuts. Click to accept, click again, and I will scale it out for my car. And I'm going to also put up something here, click, and then bring this up. So I want this garage to be able to open. Now we're not going to be doing the opening part in this. We're going to be using what we call the vertex group to be able to separate certain things, and shape keys to be able to open this particular garage. So but right now, let's select this. So we have subdivided this now the way we want it to be. So I need to now do something here. Let me select this part and just select here and extrude it out a bit just to give it some kind of uniqueness. Let me just select here, Control plus to select this. If you actually do select and more, so you can either use Control plus or you use it here to select more. So I've just selected everything about this door, and I'm going to invert the selection by clicking here and say invert. So it's going to select the other parts that I have not used. Okay, so I'm using this because I want to make this to look like a cage, and I want this place to just be the part that actually has some kind of thickness. I'm going to make the thickness even a bit more different later. So I'll right click here and subdivide, and right click and subdivide one more time. Now the problems you're facing is that we'll have things like this happening over here. So but we're going to leave that for now because we're not looking for precision. We just want to experience what it feels like to use our wireframe modifier. So the modifier I want to use right now is what we call the wireframe modifier. So we can come in here, click on this add, and we can come down and we can get the wireframe modifier. So if I click on wireframe modifier, you actually see something happening here. So here, if you look at here, this one is just blank because we have this like this. So for us to be able to get it back, we can just right click, subdivide, subdivide, and subdivide again, and we have something like this. But if you look at now, it looks a bit more, it's coming out a bit more. So if you look at out here, you see something that looks like that. So if you select this, you can actually come down here and increase the thickness of your wireframe. So if you increase the thickness, the wireframe actually does, the cage actually becomes much more interesting. So if you get this here, like what I have here now, let's get this. You can actually make it separate if you want to by pressing P on your keyboard. Once you select it, press P on your keyboard and then click on selection. So once you do that, you can be able to separate it and it becomes a bit different. So now you are seeing something happening here. The way to solve that problem is one, press Ctrl A to apply your scale, and you see that it comes back the way it is. Select this one, Ctrl A, apply your scale, and it goes back to the way it was before. So right now we also need to increase this thickness a bit more. And now we have something that looks like this. So we have our cage, and we can be able to later be able to open this up in a later video. So right now we'll have a video where we'll have this guy coming into the city, and then he's driving to this particular cage here. If you want to be able to put other things like maybe pillars that will support this to make this look very interesting, we can do that by simply just getting our 3D cursor, putting it here, and then Shift A, get our cylinder, and we can be able to just scale it up. Use our scale tool and scale it up on the Z-axis. Let's scale it down a bit to make it slim. Scale it up a bit more. You can drag this up here like this. So we'll have something like this. So we can still be able to utilize our arrays for it. So we can be able to come in here, get our array, and then we'll have this array, and let's make it to go on this axis. Make this 0. So we'll have something like this, more like a pillar that supports it. And then we can add another array here, and we can be able to get this here and get more of this to this place. So we'll have something that looks more like that. To make the city to look a bit more beautiful, we can just select this plane here on the floor, enter into edit mode, and we can be able to press E to extrude it to cover up everything. So if you come in here, you actually see the entire city, over here like this. So other things you could do, you could actually scale this up if you want to, or you could actually make it a very simple city if you want to. So now we just have this, and our camera will just be going through here to this particular place. So, and this is how we can be able to build simple stuff using modifiers. So if you look at everything we have done so far, we have used modifiers to do all the things that we are doing here. If you go back to our car and you want to put the side mirror, for example, enter here, and we want to add like a side mirror here. So we can just get our 3D cursor, click here, and we can push Shift A, add a cube. So whatever we'll add here will also appear in the other side. So if you look at here now, look at what is happening. Now look at the interesting thing here. If you look at when I added this cube, it also merged with this because of the clipping that we'll have on it. So now we want to separate it for now. We'll just uncheck the clip, and we can select this and just pull it out. Pull it out like this, and now you see that they are both different now. So you could actually do something like that. So let's scale this down a bit. And I'm going to use my scale to scale this down a bit more. Now we can go back and turn on our clipping back so that it doesn't affect our car. So I can have this here, and I'm going to put a loop cut here to straighten this part, and put a loop cut here to straighten just a bit of this. Let me bring it down a bit here, and I can scale it down more here. And I'm going to scale this down on this axis and move it in this way. I can put another loop cut, 2 loop cuts here, and I can scale this up to make it a bit more curved like this. Then I can select my faces, and I will press E, click to accept it, S to scale it in, and I can be able to move in to create a sort of mirror for my car. This is not a perfect mirror, it's just a very simple stuff. So you can right click and also to smooth for all of them, and now you have a very simple car that passes through a particular place to that. If you want to texture this, add some kind of color to it, we can now go into our render mode. I'm going to use my render mode to be able to put some lights on this to make it look even far better. So if you look at now, this is what you're going to be seeing. So we'll have this light here, and we can be able to bring this light somewhere there. Let's bring this here and turn this into a sun. So the sun is not working because this is actually let me delete this plane that we have here. So you see the sun, before the sun can appear, let's do Shift A again, add another plane and put it out there. So we're going to select that sun and just make it to be 1. So we'll have something like this. So if you come down here, if you look at what is happening, we can be able to select this and push it down more. So we can have something that looks like this. So we have an open world, and we have removed our box so that we can be able to have this. The first thing I want to do is to add the sky for this work. So to finish up our work, we're going to make sure we have our environmental texture. We're going to be discussing that in details in another video. But I'm just going to click here and I'm going to add a very simple sky texture. Because I'm using the EV render, this is the EV render. If you go over here, you see that this is the EV render. We're not using cycles, we're using EV. So make sure that in the wall setting, you change this to either the wiki or the preterm. So if you use this, you have something like this, and you can be able to reduce this to this kind of value. So we'll have a very bright scene this way here. Now I want to be able to get to light up some things. Let's add some very simple textures that are just base textures, base materials. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to use my first material. I will call this my floor. And let's say I make this to be green. So if I have something like this, let's say the wall, I'm going to call this my wall. And I'm going to make this, let's say, a brown color. This shiny thing you are seeing here, you can remove it by going down here to your specular and you just turn it down like this. For the car, I want my car to be a blue car. So I'm just going to click and add a blue to it. For my tires, I'm going to select my tires and just make them to be very simple tires. And I'll make them to be black. If you want to be able to make your scene look even more interesting in the EV, you have to go back to this render properties, turn on your ambient occlusion, your bloom, and also your screen space reflection and the refraction. This will enable you to put things like metallic surfaces when you actually start working. Then for the road, I'm going to click on this road here and I'm going to select this and I'm going to call this my road. And the road should also be a sort of black too. If you want this road to be more interesting, we can be able to use materials. Now we have worked with materials in some other tutorials, so I'm going to show you a bit of things we can do with materials here. So I'm going to make it to have some kind of white and black thing here. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to call this my white. So to add multiple materials to a particular mesh, you have to click at the plus sign here and then you can click on new here and then you can call this your white. So for this white, I'm just going to come in here and select. Let's say, for example, I'm going to try to get the center of this. I think the center is somewhere here. I'm going to get, I have two, I'm going to get three here. Okay, let me make it 3 3 3, allow 3 1 2 3, pass 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. There are faster ways of doing this, but I'm going to be using this technique here. 1 2 3, pass 3 1 2 3. So we'll have something like this, and I will select this white and I will assign it to it. So right now you have something that looks like that. So over here we'll have these pillars, and I can just select this pillar and let's say I make it to be pillar, and I want it to have a sort of gray kind of color. For this, I'll make it a metallic material, so I'm just going to call this my cage. And to make it metallic, I can increase the metallic thing here in the principal shader here, and I can reduce the roughness to make it a bit shiny, and you have something that looks like that. You can always go back here and increase the thickness if you need it to be a bit more thick. Let's select this and also make it to be like the pillars. So we can use the same material that we have used on the pillars on this one too, by just clicking here, and we can just get the pillar and we'll have this here. If we want to rename it to maybe foundation, let's call it foundation. We'll click on this too, making it a different material from this. So we can call this our foundation. And we could make it a different color if you want to. Let's say for that. So right now, if you actually come from here, you actually see your scene and you can be able to move from here to here. For our car, let's make it to have some kind of nicer kind of window. So we can select this car and we can add the glass. So we click here and then we can be able to add the glass. And enter here, we can click here, hold shift. And if we want to be able to also get this, I'm going to bring this back a bit. Let's go closer to it. Control R. I'm going to put a loop cut somewhere here. And just bring it up to this point. And now I brought it to this point. I will use my vertex selection, select here, and here, and here, 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 here. And I'll just pull it down to this point to become a bit more flat this way. Like this. I'll put another loop cut here, and now I can select this point and 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 this point. Now this is not what a car should look like, but I'm going to be using this for now. So you can scale it in, you can just extrude it in if you want to, A and E again, just scale it in a bit like this. So right now, we can be able to select that our glass and assign it in edit mode. Enter into edit mode. Also select the back here. And then the front parts, and then assign it. Now for this, because we have something like this, we can be able to come up here. We'll have a glass material. We can click here and actually get our glass material here. And once we do that, you see that it has changed. To be able to make it to be able to work, we have to come down here and turn on our screen space refraction. So once you turn that on, you see that it begins to act more like a glass. If you want it to become more transparent, you can actually go over here and you can play around with your roughness to, change how it looks. Other things that could actually make it to be able to see through properly is HDR images. You can be able to actually work on that in another video. So I'll select this. I want to fine tune this a bit more to make it even better. So just bring this up like this, and I have something that looks like that. So lastly, we have an entire scene that has been powered by modifiers, and these modifiers can be used for a lot of things. So whenever you want to model, you can always use modifiers to be able to model much of the things you're doing, and it actually speeds up your work so that you don't have to do things manually. Instead of duplicating things, you can use an array. If you want to subdivide things, you can just use a subdivision modifier. So right now you can be able to actually see we'll have a very nice scene that looks here. So I like to actually change the color here to make it a bit much more interesting to look at. But I want it to be different from the background. There. Okay, so we'll have something that looks like this, and that is how we can be able to use modifiers for our modeling. So if you have any question, do put it in the comments and I will be doing more things on this. In the next video, we're going to be animating this car to be able to climb this place and then open this door here for the garage and then have a car park in there. So I will see you in the next video.